The next item on the agenda is act on endorsement of candidate for TASB Board of Directors, Region 11.
Yes, GCISD has received notice from TASB that the term of Becky St. John, TASB Board of Directors, Region 11, Position A, will expire this year at the close of the 2022 convention. And Becky St. John has indicated that she will seek re-election. And the recommendation is for the Board of Trustees to support Becky St. John as the nominee for the TASB Board of Directors.
I have a recommendation. Do we have a motion? Jorge?
I move that we accept Dr. Ryan's recommendation.
Do I have a second? Go on.
I second.
Comments?
Yeah, so I just want to give some, I'm sorry, Shannon, your mic's on. No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to just say that I would like to amend and restate Tammy Nakamura for that position.
So you want to amend and restate that our representation be Tammy Nakamura. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Discussion?
Yeah, so first of all, I'd like to pass to the board some letters of support from other trustees in Region 11. So if you're not at the table, then you're on the menu. I would like to ask Trustee Nakamura, how many Region 11 school districts are there?
Well, I don't know, but that's something that I would sure love your support if I do get elected to help me through the process, because it's surely something that definitely can be learned.
And do you know how many?
Point of order. I kindly ask that board members don't question other board members.
Okay.
And I just speak to the topic at hand.
Okay, so there are 77 school districts in Region 11, and 15 of them are Robin Hood districts. And this is an extremely complicated process here. The other school districts are also very interested in this position. So right now, the way Region 11 settles out is that one of the seats is an automatic seat for Fort Worth ISD. In fact, the way that the TASB board is set up is such that the large urban districts are automatically granted seats. And so we're talking Fort Worth, Houston, Austin, some of the San Antonio area ISDs. And because there are only about 150, 200 districts at any given time that are Robin Hood districts, it is critically important that Grapevine Colleyville have a voice in this. And I have spent the last 3 years as the director in this position. And so I've built up the relationships with our state representative, Giovanni Capriglione. I've built up the relationships, believe it or not, with the Lieutenant Governor's office, with the State Board of Education, including Pat Hardy, who endorsed my campaign last year, as well as other State Board of Education representatives. I also have the time and the ability to do this. If y'all will note, there was a question in the board questions: how much has GCISD spent on this position as I served over the last 3 years? And the answer to that is $0. This was also a position that was a benefit to the school district because my registration for many of the training sessions, SLI, the convention were paid for by TASB. And so that was a savings to us. Additionally, and this is something that I think Trustee Nakamura really might be interested in, by having an experienced trustee as one of the directors, the school district also gets a second seat at the delegate assembly. It's kind of a bonus, if you will. And so as you move through the process, though, you also have to be able to garner the support of the other school districts that are in that region. Those are called the endorsements. And then you also have to be able to garner the overall vote in the delegate assembly. And so over the course of the last 7 or 8 years, not only have I spent the time being one of the directors, but I also spent the time on the Legislative Advisory Committee. And that committee is made up of trustees from each of the 20 education service regions. And I was supported all 3 times in that position to be one of the 4 LAC members that acts as a representative and a bridge between the board of directors and the legislative committee that represents all of the regions. And so while I appreciate the willingness of additional trustees to step up into the position, I think that my connections in this position are very valuable to the district and would not necessarily exist if I am not reappointed to this position. I also am pleased to report, actually, I missed a meeting tonight. I missed a board of directors meeting because TASB was taking up the question as to whether or not to remain within the National School Board Association. And although I was not able to attend that meeting and have not seen any official information on that meeting, my vote was to leave NSBA because I did not believe that the organization of NSBA was responding properly to the needs of its state member organizations. And so I supported the move. We'll see what happened with that. But I would really appreciate the support of all of the trustees to continue to serve in this position because it is a very important position. It gives us a voice with the other Robin Hood districts. We all band together. And I think that without the experience there and the relationships that have already been built, as we move into a legislative session that we know is going to be absolutely critical for the taxpayers of GCISD, I think experience is critical that we be able to serve this district as well as the region. In fact, as I mentioned today, there was a Senate finance meeting. And so I have here the agenda from that meeting as well for each of the trustees. And then also tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., there will be a meeting of the Senate Education Committee. And here's the agenda for that. Also tomorrow, there will be a meeting of the House Public Education Committee. They'll be discussing HB 1525, HB 4545, SB 1365, and SB 1716. Here's the agenda for that.
I call the question. There's, having a stronghold and having more people diversified on a group that understand the same information seems vitally important to the success of not only our district, but the board. I don't see a problem with having other people learn the same information that you know. And I appreciate your, the time that you invest in this and the passion that you have for it. I do. It's beneficial and I appreciate it. But
So point of order, you're calling the question, the amendment and restatement. So we would need a second to call the question, the amendment and restatement. That's what we're saying. Do we have a second to call the question, the amendment and restatement?
To go back to Shannon, is what you're saying?
To go back to the amendment and restatement.
I'll second.
Okay, so we'll show of hands. to vote on the amendment and restatement. To vote on the amendment and restatement.
Are you
All those-
voting on changing the recommendation?
So we're going, yeah, so we have to go to the amendment and restatement and vote. What's the amendment and restatement is to name Tammy as the nominee or support. And then we'd have to vote on the amendment and restatement and then go back to the original question and pass it.
Well, I would like to make a comment about before we do that, and I mean, I do appreciate Tammy's your ability, your willingness to serve, but the bottom line is like,
On point of order, call a question you can't debate.
oh,
So for it, it was opposed.
okay.
Just abstaining.
What is can I restate the motion, please?
Right. So now we have to vote on the amendment.
With
The amendment is, we read the recommendation and just change it to Tammy Nakamura for the recommendation.
You go for both.
Say again.
You just go for both to change it. I say you did it.
All right, the original recommendation is for the board of trustees to support Becky St. John as the nominee for the TASB Board of Directors. Right. And then there was an amended.
Then there was an amendment by Shannon for it to not be Becky St. John, but to be Tammy. We had a second. We were debating it. So then Shannon called that we vote on the amendment or restatement. So then we can then vote on the next line item. Or not line item, but the next order. So we have to vote, which we voted 4-3 to now vote on the amendment and restatement. So the amendment and restatement is to have Tammy Nakamura as the support as the nominee as the TASB Board of Directors.
So before we vote on that amendment, could we
We got to vote
comment?
on.
Could we comment on it?
We just did comment and then we just forced into discussion. So now we got to vote. And then we have to go and vote to pass the original recommendation with it being Tammy though. We have to vote on the
With
amendment.
no discussion.
We just had the discussion. So now the vote is
But I asked for a turn to make comments on. You guys didn't give it to me.
right, but Shannon made a call to question
Mhm.
and it got seconded by Tammy. There's no debate. You vote right there
For the amendment.
for the amendment. That's right. So all those in favor of the amendment to have Tammy as the representation for the TASB Board of Directors, show of hands. Okay. So now the recommendation is
Now, the amended recommendation.
the amended recommendation is to have is the Board of Trustees to support Tammy Nakamura as the nominee for the TASB Board of Directors.
Right.
So show of hands.
With no discussion?
There
Discussion?
is discussion.
This is
Okay, we'll
discussion.
discuss.
That's
Okay,
what
yeah,
I was.
so now we're here.
Okay, good.
Discuss. Okay.
I was just waiting for the turn.
Right.
I mean, I just want to say I do appreciate other trustees wanting to get involved in this, but the bottom line is that Tammy is a brand new trustee. She's gonna have to compete with trustees on Region 11 to win this seat, and nobody knows who she is. And we have someone that has worked many hours, have put a lot of time, have built connections. And that is why, if Tammy goes and start looking at, networking through TASB and getting involved, then that's a different story. But right now what we're doing is putting someone in brand new that is willing to do it. And I'm not sure that it's not that she won't do a good job, but you have to compete to get the nominate. We nominate you, but then you have to compete with other districts. There will be a lot more much veteran or experienced trustees competing, and more than likely we will lose that seat where we have Becky, everybody knows her in the region. More than likely, she will win it, and then we'll have representation at that level on TASB. So we're deciding between probably a sure thing representing GCISD at that level versus someone that probably doesn't have the support yet because she's brand new to get the position. So I just don't see why the board will support Tammy just because she's a brand new board member. She's gonna have to start making the relationship that takes years to build. That that Becky has built them, and I just kind of question why we want to do that and lose the opportunity to continue to have a leader in TASB, especially with the legislative session coming up. So I just want to not question the ability of Tammy or the willingness to serve. The bottom line is that there's not a guarantee that she will get the job. You have to compete, and people that have been in board for many more years, that have been involved in TASB, more than likely will be favored by the Region 11 voters, and we probably will lose that seat. I just want to comment that because we don't want to lose a seat, and we have someone that more than likely will get it versus the chance of not getting it because we are nominating someone new. That's what I wanted to say.
Well, I'm hoping that if
Fully.
Thank you. So I was actually the second seat at TASB last year. So I had the opportunity to actually see Becky in action, the influence that she has over the folks that she represents and the influence that she has in a room of those folks and how she influences other people. So I think that particularly with the legislative session, I mean, learned so much from just having the second seat. So there's opportunity to continue to serve in that capacity where you can get some sea legs before, really jumping in. I think that Becky has earned the spot.
Tammy?
Well, that's where I'm hoping if I am elected to do this, that I will get the support of Becky. That's what I'm hoping for.
Any other comments?
So here's what I would say. And I think the 7 of us need to look very closely at what we heard from the audience this evening. And you need to look really closely at what's on these agendas. And you need to look really closely at your tax bill. And Jorge is absolutely correct. This seat for director is very, very coveted and sought after by the other districts in Region 11. While I appreciate Tammy's willingness to serve, trying to get someone up to speed on this ahead of a legislative session with the voting for this position being in September will be next to impossible. And so my strong recommendation, which is exactly what you do understand that part of the nomination process is you have to get the nomination from the nominations committee. And some of the criteria that are on the application are things like how many years have you served on the Legislative Advisory Committee? What connections do you have with legislators? And so it's not just as simple as getting the nomination or the nod from your board. You have to get the nomination from the nominations committee. And so if as the board president and as the board vice president and as the board secretary, that you want GCISD to not get bowled over and end up costing taxpayers more, I really firmly believe that having a seasoned trustee in this position is what is going to be in the best interest of the district and not because of a political vendetta. And so I would ask for the support of this board, actually unanimously. I think, Tammy, you've been involved with TML. And so, I mean, the TASB board, TASB has rebated back to our cumulative taxpayer entities here, the city of Colleyville, the city of Grapevine, the city of Euless, and GCISD, probably close to $200,000 in rebates. That's part of what over a 5-year period. This past year, it was about $60,000, okay, for 21-22.
You're saying in your
saying that because you were on the board that happened?
I am saying that because the board of directors oversees the budget and finance committee, which is one of the committees that, yes, I have absolutely served on, that committee has made the decisions to ensure that TASB entities such as by board are strong and vital and are publicized to its member entities for significant taxpayer savings. So yes, actually, I have served on that committee. Yes, I have.
Okay,
Yes.
but
And
I'm sure
so-
they do it for all of the entities, all of the boards.
Actually, you would be surprised at some of the regions and some of the school districts that don't utilize the services that are available there. And it's a real shame, especially for a lot of the rural districts. And when you look at the makeup of Region 11, the actual vast majority of school districts that are in Region 11 are actually rural districts. And so understanding all the dynamics and how this plays out is enormous. And at the end of the day, though, this comes back to our GCISD taxpayers. And as Jorge alluded to, being able to provide our taxpayers with the best footing possible to be able to advocate in Austin for Robin Hood relief, for school funding, for teacher support. I think that this board really needs to take a look at this and decide how they're going to justify to the community that they have, in fact, made the best decision to get GCISD in a position of influence and advocacy in Austin and with the TASB board.
So does the board not look out for every one of the school districts? Am I missing something there, as they should?
So regional directors are supposed to represent the regions. And what I can tell you, Tammy, is
Okay.
that the simple fact of the matter is that Robin Hood school districts are vastly outnumbered in Austin. And any time that you can have an experienced voice on the TASB board that can speak to both the needs of a Robin Hood district as well as the needs of all of those rural districts that are 1A, 2A, 3A. I graduated with 17 in my graduating class. It's a 1A school. I understand also the needs of those rural districts and the ability to be able to bridge those gaps when those rural districts actually make up the vast majority of the TASB membership when it comes to delegate assembly.
Okay.
It's critical. It's critical. And so I know that every single dollar counts here in GCISD. And so when we talk about the accountability to the taxpayers for the decisions that we make here as a board, I think it's going to be very incumbent upon us to be able to say that we made the best decision in the interest of the taxpayers, that we set GCISD and Region 11 and every single school district in the entire state of Texas up for a successful legislative session.
And I think
so-
that's the key to it there. Exactly. Every one of them should be set up for that. And I don't think because you're on there that should make that much of a difference. It shouldn't.
Okay, I'm just going to say that the taxpayers will be the ones that ultimately have to foot the bill, and our
Well,
children will be the ones that
I
ultimately
don't
are in the
think that.
classroom.
I call the
that's true.
question.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Amy? Yeah, all those in favor of the recommendation is for the Board of Trustees to support Tammy Nakamura as the nominee for the TASB Board of Directors. All those in favor, show of hands. 3, 4. All those opposed? 3. Motion passes 4-3.
Forward to hearing everyone's input on the Public Education Committee hearing tomorrow.